Welcome in Patriots Beat podcast coming to you exclusively on the CLNS Media Network. John Zannis, Alex Barth. Patriots training camp rolls on day 8. Heat, humidity. It wasn't that humid. Honestly, for all the fuss we made about how hot it was going to be today, I actually thought it was fairly tolerable.
We got a little breeze. That helped.
Yeah, we didn't have a little breeze. We didn't have the benefit of the slip and slide. The Patriots did. Apparently, this is a very, secretive, exercise that we're no longer allowed to film. Once upon a time, media was allowed to go back there and film that thing that they do with the fumble drill and the slip and slide, but no fun anymore. No fun allowed, Alex. That's fine. So we watched training camp. This was a padded practice, just catching people up on what we've got here. Padded practice tomorrow is a walkthrough. So this basically wraps up week 2 of training camp. We've now got,
well, I don't know about that. I don't know if you saw Tom Curran tweeted that it might be a little more up tempo than it's been in the past.
Oh, the Friday,
the in stadium, yeah. So
that would be something. A lot of
we
times
don't know
those
yet.
Things are light and fluffy. So yeah, we'll see. That would be something if there's something there to see and discuss from Friday's practice. But we are nearing the end of week 2, whether or not they do something heavy duty or worth discussing tomorrow. And we have some idea of what's going on. I guess the continuing trend just is the offense and how they're doing and just how they're looking. So we'll just jump into today. Again, not a lot of competitive stuff. They did a lot of special teams. What little competitive they did, you did see some gains from the passing game, albeit on a lot of the shorter stuff, which they were able to complete. You saw a little bit of success with some inside runs. The zone blocking and the outside running is still a total freaking mess. And that stuff's getting blown up pretty easily. You are also getting defensive penetration on the offensive line in the passing game, resulting in a couple of sacks or would-be sacks sort of situations. So I don't have the full numbers in front of me, Alex, but there might have been, I think it was about 16 total competitive plays. And I think you could say the Patriots offense had 6 or so positive plays resulting from that. So that's not great. And the 6 might be a generous number because a couple of those, like you said, are kind of easy, take it, check down, dump offs, and not really anything like big and down the field. So here we are again. It's inching forward, but what Bill Belichick said before practice, we're past the teaching, we're into the production portion of camp. Still want to see more production from the offense.
Yeah, I felt the offense maybe took a little bit bigger of a step than you did. I think there's still work to be done. I think in terms of passing, they did, right?
I'm spending too much time with Bedard. That's my problem.
You might be. You really might be. I had Mac down as 14 for 18. At one point, he completed 10 passes in a row, and that's like 10 passing snaps.
But I only mean
so
the 11s. Yeah.
No, so that's what I had. So the big thing is like 10 dropbacks in a row, not including the runs, but he didn't have to take off and run it himself. He didn't get sacked. 10 times in a row where he was able to drop back, throw the ball, and hit somebody. And maybe some of them were checkdowns, right? But a huge part of the problem the first couple of days was they couldn't even do that consistently. He was getting flushed out of the pocket. He's having to roll around, right? Scramble, throw the ball away. So they're not all the way where we want them to be, but there was a little more pass protection. I said on yesterday's show, you just want to see them start to build a rhythm. That's kind of the first step towards fixing this. I felt like you saw that a little bit today. So it's not, we ended last show saying we want to come on here and be like, the offense, they've arrived, right? It's not that, but it is progress. Maybe not as much progress as everybody wanted, but it is a step. The running game, like you said, has not gotten to that stage yet. The running game still seems like it's in square one. That's certainly a concern, especially when you look at how big of a factor the running game was for them last year. And I don't think it needs to be that big of a factor this year, but it's going to be a factor. But I'll give the passing game credit for what they did today. I think it was better. Well, if they come out tomorrow or in the next competitive practice and there's no more growth, it's kind of like a so what? But this is the first day I felt comfortable saying like, hey, they're moving in the right direction with this stuff.
They are. There's one thing I wanted to point out, and this is the problem without having like the benefit of being able to kind of run it back. There's probably a lot of times out there where you see something and you're like, crap, I want to see it again. And you can't see it again. And that makes it harder to judge kind of what happened on certain plays. So there are times when there is time, and you look back and Max still got the ball in his hand on some plays, and you scan the field, it looks like nobody's open. So, but maybe there was for a split second, maybe there was a window, maybe Mac missed it. And that stuff is really, really, really hard to pick up when you're watching it live and you really only got one look at it. But there are times where when the O line hasn't completely collapsed, that you see Mac kind of stuck there and he's still looking around, and you see guys running around. There's nobody to throw to, and I'm not sure whether he's holding it too long or just nobody's open.
Yeah, I only had one today where it looked like nobody was open. There was one where I mean, it was in 11s. Everybody was locked up. Max holding. I think this was one of the last plays of the day. I think he eventually checked it down to a back. He might have thrown the ball away, but
Yep.
it did feel like there was some separation from the receivers more so. I
And
didn't.
Mac might have held it.
Well, no, I didn't notice a ton of. So I had one where he had to hold it because nobody was open. I had two where he held it. It's not that nobody was open, but nobody was like, I think he could have probably thrown it. I think he had something good. He
Well,
was
you're
waiting for
talking.
something better.
There were 3 or 4 sacks in the competitive 11 on 11s between Mac and Zappy, and Mac got the majority of snaps in this one. I think he had
Right.
11 snaps to Zappy's 5. He got sacked 3 times.
Yeah, but some of those sacks, like one of them, Anthony Jennings was just there. Like he got the ball and the gun, and that's not on him. I mean, he can't.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So when I'm talking about plays where I think he held the ball longer than he probably should have, one of them, everybody was just blanketed, call it a coverage sack. There were two where I thought maybe he could have. I think there were opportunities to throw the ball that were good, not great. And I think he was waiting for something great to get open, which
Yeah.
you don't like. There's times to do that. I don't think this was the time. I don't think those were the time to do that. So I'm down for 2 sacks on his fault, 1 sack on the line's fault. But again,
Yep.
this is 8 sacks, I think 9 sacks on Tuesday. So again, it's progress. They're not where they want to be, but it's
No,
progress.
no. Just like I said, just charting you, because at the end of the day, you really are. Some of those completion numbers are a little bit inflated because they are during the less competitive portion of practice. So when you're looking at just when kind of it's offense full tilt, defense full tilt, that's what you had. 4 sacks out of 16 plays. You don't want to get sacked 25% of your dropbacks. So it's still, yeah, as you said, better. It's not 8 or 9
Right.
sacks. It's a little better, but it's still not quite there. So again, you do want to see it, and it really would be nice to get into some game action and then going against, as you said, other teams, and that's where you're really going to start to see things a little bit. You mentioned Jennings. Jennings again just continues to show out. Godshaw great again. He's looked really good. I know some people were kind of, yeah, I don't know about this extension. Why is Bill throwing money at Jags? Right now, he's playing like a guy who's worth $10 million, at least in camp. Anything else you kind of glean from today? And again, just to set people up for what we're going to do here, there wasn't a ton to talk about today. So we will go into some observations. We're going to spend a little bit of time grading the position groups that we've seen through 8 days so far, but just picking up the pieces on any leftovers from today.
Yeah, I think with Anthony Jennings, you touched on him there for a second. I think that's a big one. No Matthew Judon today. We didn't find out why. We'll see
Right.
if he's out there tomorrow. Might have just been a Veterans Day off. And Anthony Jennings got most of his snaps
Yep.
with that
He
top
was
defense.
right
And
in his place. Yeah.
I think coming into camp, a lot of people had Jennings as a fringe roster player, if that. And he's looked good to this point. Like, it's not that they randomly threw him out there today after nothing. I would say he earned that role, and we saw him out there today, and he played well. I had him down for half a sack today. That would be big if he can step up, right? They've got 2 outside linebackers they need to replace, and Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy. And we were kind of looking at the group of Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, and Ronnie Perkins as the guys who realistically internally might step up and grab those opportunities. And so far, I think it's been Jennings by a landslide stepping up in that outside linebacker. I'm not spray tanned. I am just
No, I think
dripping
he's
with
calling
sweat.
me. I think he's calling me spray tan.
Oh, okay. I'm
You're
just shiny because
Alex.
I'm dripping with sweat. I
You're
see it now.
Alex. I'm spray tan. I could be, but I'm not spray tan. Anyway,
Yeah, I think Jennings been really good throughout camp, and then today to see him step into Judon's role, I think that shows that the team clearly thinks highly of him. And I've been saying this since the draft. I'm not ready to give up on Anthony Jennings yet, and clearly the Patriots aren't either.
yeah. So that's good. That's really serendipitous here. Getting to see, and again, from sometimes from injuries and things like that. you get opportunity, and when you are kind of given it, it's good to make the most of it. So Jennings has looked good over the past couple of days. Camp notes: Brian Hoyer is alive. That's good
He's
news.
back. Yep.
He's back. He was back working out. Ramondre Stevenson missed one day, came right back. So that's good to see. There was nothing major there. As I said, he looked a little bit off and a little labored the other day. It looked like he powered through practice, but maybe just needed a day to get himself right. Could just be general soreness. Who knows? So those two things. You also saw Pierre Strong get his first competitive reps
Yeah, that
of
was big.
practice. So that's nice to see as well. I watched him working out yesterday. I was up close and personal where the running backs were, checking that out, and he definitely looked like he was, still like, all right, I'm ramping up a little bit still. So, he's a little bit behind, but it's nice to see him get in the mix. He didn't miss that much time where he's not going to be able to make it up. But obviously, you want those rookies to get out there sooner than later if they're going to be able to get acclimated and make any sort of impact here early in camp. So Strong was
Right.
back. I'm trying to think if there was anything else worth mentioning. A mystery chopper landed. I don't know who came out of it.
That might have been Kraft leaving because he was there at the start of practice.
Oh, it just came to pick him up? That was
So
his ride?
I noticed the other day when he arrived in the chopper, it took off while he was still there. So I don't think it stays there while he's at the stadium. I think it goes somewhere else and then comes back to get him. So I never saw him arrive. Like I saw him walk up to the field. I never saw the helicopter bring him in. I wonder if that was him leaving.
Yeah. I don't
Or
know.
maybe they're meeting with Odell Beckham. Who knows?
When it landed, I heard, right, nobody got out. And I was like, okay, who's in there? When it landed, the PA system started playing Lay Your Hands on Me. So I thought it was John Bon Jovi's entrance music.
Oh, yeah, there you
But
go.
but no, it wasn't him either. So I have no idea. I'm curious who got flown in. We'll get our Larry Fitzgerald at the airport pictures later on. And all of our conspiracy theories about who flew into Gillette Stadium. OBJ? Maybe OBJ. I like that. Anything else
We
from
need to do the
today,
college
Alex?
football thing where they track the flights to see where the coaches are going.
Exactly.
They continue to be very, very heavy special teams work. And I think you look at
Yeah.
how the kicking game killed them last year. I think there's field position is going to be a huge thing for this team this year. That's not by mistake. They know they need it, and people are going to roll their eyes. Well, they weren't great offensively at times last year either. They need to fix that. Like, yes, and they're working on it. I think they understand just how much that those special teams mistakes killed them last year. I don't think it's something that they're going to let happen again. I know a lot of people are saying, well, should Cam McCord be back? Should they've gotten a new special teams coordinator after everything that went on? It's clear that it's something that's a point of focus. Oh, and the other note, just housekeeping note, Shivani Talai, right? Getting hurt at the end of practice. He had to be helped
Yeah.
off the field. So, Bill kind of raves about him in a Sirius XM interview on, I don't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday earlier this week. Says he's going to be a big part of what we do, all four downs. That kind of caught a lot of people's attention because he hadn't been super involved to this point in camp. I thought he had a pretty good day on Tuesday. So the comments from Monday night, he had a pretty good day on Tuesday, and he had to get helped off today walking slowly. So we'll wait and see what the news is on him.
Yeah. Don't like to see that. Someone's asking for a James White update. There is none.
None. Yep.
He's still not participating. And again, you really start to wonder, and there's two things you could look at it here. He's just getting the veterans treatment here. And it's like, we'll see you at the end of camp. You don't need to go through all of this stuff. We know that you're going to be fine. Or, we don't know if he's returning or not.
Right.
But I believe there's no reason you don't need to see James White. When James White wants to be James White, he'll be James White.
If he still can be.
If he still can be. If he feels he has it, he comes back whenever he wants to.
Yep.
People asking, and again, I'm starting to like it more and more, how tall Reek Thornton looked today. Not a lot of activity. I will say one thing that I noticed throughout camp, Alex, is he's really outstanding at catching balls that drop in over his shoulder or over the top of his head. It's really actually been impressive. An impressive thing seeing him track those down, because that takes a great amount of coordination and body control. He did make that terrific catch on Jalen Mills, that kind of one-hander where the ball just drops in and he's just looking and hauls it in.
Right.
I was noticing just a drill today where they were just lofting it up and having guys go run under it. A lot of people have trouble with those balls, and he just hauls them all in. Again, there's nothing not to like about Thornton so far.
Yeah, he actually talked about that specific kind of catch after practice. And he basically said he's worked on it a ton because need to make that catch on a regular basis, but it's the hardest catch. And if you can make that catch, you can catch the ball from any angle, right? It's kind of, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball sort
Right.
of mentality. It feels like if you
Yeah.
can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. So I thought that was really interesting to hear them say that. The way he views the game, I think, is just fascinating. The way he views preparing for the game. Another answer he gave that stuck out to me, he's been working as the gunner on the punt team, which is something he didn't do at Baylor. And when you're the gunner, right, you got to get off the line like your
Yep.
wide receiver, but the rules are a little different. First of all, there's usually two guys on you, and they can be a little more physical with you than they can if you're a wide receiver. So he kind of talked about how that's helped him. Again, it's like a resistance band thing, right? Learning how to get off the line as a gunner on punt team has helped him get off the line as a wide receiver. And I don't know that, I kind of thought that, that's a good point. Like, I don't know how many guys view it that way. And
Right.
that's obviously something they love, right? Complementary football. Take something from one aspect of the game
Yeah.
and
And
use it in another. So the way I'd love to ask him more just about how he views the way all the different areas of the game connect, because I think he views the game in a really interesting way. He views the game in a really fascinating way. I think he's truly like a football nerd, a football junkie. And you keep kind of seeing signs of it. I'm looking forward to hearing him talk more throughout the season.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a thing, as you said, you can use it because it's going to apply to your current, trade, but it's not something he's going to do during the year. He's not playing on special teams. He's not going to be a gunner.
Right. It's probably an emergency situation, if anything.
Right, but I think it is very much in order to do exactly what you mentioned there is, to get off of blocks and get off the line and just deal with physicality. Any opportunity you can give him to do that right now, I think is worthwhile, because again, that's by far the number one concern here is he's skinny as hell and he's not going to be able to get off the jam at the line. And if he can't do that, what's the point here? And so that's what you want to see from him is, being able to handle that physicality. Other observations today. Again, I'm trying to. I don't want to be. I'm not saying this for the sake of being negative. Devontae Parker, who was everywhere at the beginning of camp, seeing a less of him in terms of big plays or moments here, and again, largely a byproduct of the offense just not really being really up to snuff right now. I haven't seen a ton there, and Nelson Aguilar, I think, continues to look better and better each day. And again, everything I saw from him today, he looks really good. Looking at the one-on-ones, I know this is a big area of focus, and a lot of you guys love to track, those the one-on-ones, the O-line versus the D-line guys. Strange goes down kind of an 0 for 2 sort of day going against Lawrence Guy, a lot of power there, and then he was up against Barmore, but I didn't think he got dominated in those reps. Did you?
No, not particularly. I think he looked better. He kind of the thing with the whole offense, right? There's still a ways to go, but he looked better
Yeah.
in those. I'll just give two more observations too, just based on I know somebody brought up JJ Taylor in the chat. JJ Taylor's had a bit of a rough camp here.
Yeah, but today Taylor was active, I thought.
Well, he was active, but he had a rough drop today. That's the second day in a row, or second in 3 days. I don't remember if it was yesterday or Tuesday. He had a drop. He's struggled in pass pro. I think he's probably on the fringe right now, especially if they're going to consider Ty Montgomery a full-time running back. That might bump him off the roster. On a positive note, you talk about, kind of people like to track the stats. Jonnu Smith, 4 catches today, tied for the team high. He's been involved heavily every single day, and they're using him at all 3 levels of the pattern. It seems like things are clicking for him in year 2. It really does. I think he's somebody that's had an encouraging start to camp. Again, within the context of the offense struggling as a whole, I think he's been as good as you could expect within that. So that's certainly a good sign, because if he can be big, I don't know that there's any, you go back to that record-breaking free agency class last year, right? I don't know if there's any player from that class that you need to see take a bigger jump for this team to succeed more than Jonnu Smith. You could, I guess, say Jalen Mills, but Smith's clearly, if he's not 1, he's 1A.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I think I do agree there. Jonnu has been, it is funny. Not enough attention is being paid to the big free agent signings of last year, where you would think under normal circumstances, when you bring in guys and pay them as much money as you paid Jonnu and Nelson Aguilar and have them completely underperform even your lowest expectations, that would be a big area of focus, and people would be really interested to see whether or not they're going to make good on the investment. It feels like they're both kind of forgotten. And again, I'm basing this off of nebulous, in the air, in the ether sort of buzz stuff. You just doesn't feel like there's a lot of attention paid to how Jonu's going to be, how Aguilar's going to be. And when you look at this team on the whole, the key to them getting better, we knew this entering the offseason even, was going to be internal improvements, which is by far the most important thing right now. So if both of those guys take steps forward and are even close to what you thought you got, that you paid for, they're in a much better position than I think people are giving them credit
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, not much left on today. So we are going to kind of whip through some stuff here. I think after 8 days, Alex has been busy calculating, tabulating all the stats, and he is ready to give out his draft grades, group by group, position by position.
Draft
So,
grades or camp grades?
not draft grades, camp
Okay,
grades. I'm
I just
so
wanted to
used
make
to
sure.
saying draft grades. It just
We can
flows
do
off
draft grades if you want. We can do updated draft grades. We can start talking big board for 2023. Welcome to Pat's Speak, John.
You're not
It's always
ready.
draft season. Wait until we get to September and I start throwing out names you've never heard of. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Thunderdome.
You're not ready. But yeah. So do you want to start offense or defense right now? Let's start.
Let's start offense. Let's do offense.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Offense. Let's start. We mentioned Mac holding the ball a little bit today. Zappy, rough start to camp. I think, but has looked a little better as time has gone on. Grade the quarterbacks so far.
I'll go with a B. My general B grade is there's no knocks, but there's nothing over the top, right? I think Mac, you've seen the growth you wanted to see. It's been kind of a struggle for him, and I don't know that it's entirely his fault. Nothing extraordinary. So, oh, Mac Jones, here we go. Like, I don't know that we've had that moment, but I don't know how many moments there's been, if any, that are like, well, Mac's not doing what he should be doing right now, right? So, B, he's been as expected, no more, no less.
Yeah. And again, a lot of that is a byproduct of if the line was blocking better and they were able to, hold up and get some more big plays, you might see some more big time throws. You're just not seeing it. Today's a perfect opportunity of basically everything Mac had was, stuff that was short, kind of, close to the line of scrimmage. And, captain check down is not necessarily what you want Mac Jones to be. So it is hard to gush over his grade, but I do think his ball placement when he has on cork throws has been pretty solid. A couple of those picks were either miscommunications or in the case of yesterday, we talked about might have been an intentional underthrow just to see how people would react. So I'm not putting a ton of that on him. I actually think when he's thrown the ball, he's been incredibly accurate. But again, when the offense is struggling the way it is, it's hard to give the quarterback any better than a B. You might even go a little lower there. Running backs.
B+, I think that Ramondre's been excellent. I think Damien Harris has been very good. I'm going to throw Ty Montgomery in here because I think he's a running back. I think he's been good. Those three guys are probably A's, but JJ Taylor struggled. We haven't seen Pierre Strong, who I think really should be playing a big role with this group.
Yep.
So I'm like, I know you probably think I'm going too high. We'll get to some other ones later. I'll go like B+. And I'm going off of like compared to expectations too, right? With like a B- being the baseline. I'll go with a B compared to expectations. I really wish we'd seen something for Pierre Strong. Maybe that's coming the next couple of days. If he's not healthy, I get it. But it feels, I almost want to say incomplete because it feels incomplete now because it feels like Pierre Strong should be a big part of it. And he just hasn't been.
It's incomplete. You haven't seen Pierre Strong, and there's just not been enough room to run. And again, I'm just not going to put any of that on the running backs.
Right. Their issues, we'll get to that grade. The running game issues have not been because of the running backs.
Exactly. And so they're going to get at least a B just based off of the fact that we know what they have and we know what to expect. And I do think the Ty Montgomery addition adds a dynamic that we weren't sure they would have. So that'll make up for JJ Taylor not having a great camp or not getting to see enough for Pierre Strong from, at least so far. Tight ends.
Let's
go
B
A-. B.
You'll go A-. Well, yeah, no, like B. Like, again, it's kind of the same thing and it's tough with this because I feel like there's been no negatives. Matt Sokol has like 5 drops at this point, but whatever. There's been like no negatives, but they haven't had a chance to really shine and be like, oh, look at Jonnu Smith, look at Hunter Henry make plays. because nobody can make plays because the offense doesn't have any time to
There's
operate,
a
right?
negative if you count Dalton Keene's existence.
All right, that's fair. Like B again,
If
it's
if
like
if you if you if you account for the fact that Dalton Keene exists and is alive and on this team and part of this group, it drags down the grade. It's like
it's it's
it's
a
like
B.
when
It's like
Blue died, and
yeah.
he got an F across the board. No, that's what Dalton
I'm
Keene
like
gives you.
I'm like the meter hasn't moved one way or the other at tight end. I'm still where I was coming into camp.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I'm afraid to go there. I'm going up on the tight ends because, as I said,
Okay.
it's also I'm also grading a bit on a curve here,
Yeah.
and say that you're desperate to see something from Jonnu, and he's been, as you said, one of the better players overall in camp. So that to me is a big arrow trending up. So I'm going to give him a slightly higher grade than that. This is the one we didn't want to get to, but we are going to get to. Just how bad is the O line in your estimation right now?
D. D.
D.
I think Trent Brown's like been sneaky good, like sneaky
He
really
has.
good.
When Trent Brown feels like playing, he's been good. And when he
Right.
gets his hands on people, he mauls them. But and I think David Andrews is actually, after it looked like you've seen the progression from the first day when he got there and he looked a little sluggish to now. And I think he's starting to
Yeah.
get his legs under him a little bit.
Yeah. But the rest of the group just, I mean, it's been a mess. It's been a mess. They can't give Mac any time. They can't open holes in the running game. Trent Brown's the reason I'm not giving them an F, basically.
Yeah, Onwenu had a couple of wins today, I thought, in the one-on-ones as well. But again, we're looking for positives here, where overall it's been
Yeah.
it's been largely negative.
Yeah. I honestly don't put a ton of stock into the offensive line one-on-ones, and I'm sure Evan's like crawling back onto the show now to yell at me about that. But because it's so contextual, right? Like nobody can block Christian Barmore in one-on-ones, but in general assignment, you're never going to be asked to block Christian Barmore one-on-one. So how relevant really is that rep, right? So it's for a guy like Cole Strange, I think it's interesting, or like for rookies, it's interesting just seeing how they handle getting hit by NFL talent. Beyond that, they don't do much for me.
Okay, so it's a D for you.
Yeah.
It's a D. Okay, that's fine. I think that's fair.
What was it for you?
I think anything higher than that would be much. I don't want to give a flat out
Okay.
F, and I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that because, as you said, there's enough there where it hasn't been a total failure across the board. And as I said, is if you are going to factor in some one-on-ones, they've held up against some guys when they're getting beat up in those team drills. It's just the continuity there of trying to do something new. That's just been a total friggin' disaster. And again, way too many sacks in those competitive 11 on 11s there. So, it's pretty bad. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, let's go with the big guys up front. Two of the more impressive players at camp reside on the defensive line, and that's Barmore and Godshaw right now.
Yeah.
And
A
when you
plus
throw in
plus.
how Jennings has looked here, yeah.
Well, and even Enter Henderson's look good, like A plus plus
Anderson, yeah.
plus plus for the defensive line. If they play like this in the regular season, the defense is going to be a problem. Specifically, Barmore and Godshaw, they look rejuvenated. They look like they can potentially take over games. How much of that is the offensive line struggling? We're going to find out a week from today in that first preseason game. But you can't help but be wowed by what the defensive line has done.
Yeah. Defensive line, great. And this is something that's funny too, Alex, because it was, I'd say, I mean, I don't know where you stood on it, but this was an area where people thought they should get after this in the draft. There was a lot of areas you thought that they would address in the draft, and defensive line was largely ignored,
Right.
as was cornerback. And these were two areas where it's like, they might need some juice there. But right now you have to be happy with what they have. Linebackers is another really pleasant surprise right now.
Yeah, I'll go A again. I'll go A here. You needed, like I said.
Oh, Did I skip wide receivers? I skipped
Did.
wide receivers. Finish on the linebackers, and we'll jump back in. I'm sorry, we were talking about them so much before individually.
I missed it too.
I forgot to do the grade, but yeah, go ahead. Because that's a tricky one. I do want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
finish with the linebackers.
Like I said, coming into camp, in the middle, you really needed two of those three guys to hit: McMillan, Wilson, and McGrone. And it seems like two of them have in McMillan and Wilson. So that's exciting.
Yep.
On the outside, Anthony Jennings developing. I think Juwan Bentley's even shown a little bit of growth, showing some more versatility than maybe he's shown in the past couple of years. So yeah, A for the linebackers. And again, it's like comparing it to this offensive line that struggle, and we don't know how much is one and how much is the other. Like, John, what if they come out against the Giants and run for 200 yards? and still hold them to like 50 yards rushing, right? It kind of changes the whole context of what this camp has been.
Right.
But yeah, A for the linebackers for me.
All right, we'll jump back in. This is a funny one because I believe I believe that there hasn't been much in 11 on 11s. The receivers have either been covered or they haven't been able to make plays downfield. But all in all, I actually feel pretty good about the receiver group right now. So I would go B if I were to give a grade.
I feel like I'd go like B plus as of a couple days ago, but Devontae Parker fading kind of hurts it. I'll go B again.
It
I'll go
does.
B again. It's been kind of as expected, maybe a little bit above expected. The last couple days didn't help. Like individually, Tyquan Thornton A,
Right.
Nelson Aguilar A.
Well, that's
I
why
think
I'm
it's
going B. I've liked
right.
something from all of them at one point or another.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just
And
want to see
that's
a little
it.
more
Even
consistency.
Jacoby had one move today where he absolutely just and I can't remember who it was against, but just a terrific play in one-on-one where he just absolutely lost somebody. And he's the same consistent guy who we never talk about at all. You throw Montgomery in that mix as well if you want to, but Aguilar's been good. Parker was great early. Thornton, we like everything we've seen. It's just not a lot happening in the competitive drills, which worries you some. But when we watch them play, we're like, and again, even Nixon, you like what you've seen a little bit.
Yeah, I like what I've seen from Nixon a lot, actually. And he's still involved in the kicking game, too, which is huge if he wants to make the team. I think he hasn't had any like highlight plays, but he's under the radar, had a very good camp.
Yep. And then we'll jump to the back line of the defense, the D-backs. Also, an area we were concerned about coming in. And also, again, similar to the defensive line, it's hard to know how good they actually are because you don't know how much of it has to do with the offense struggling at this point in time. But they look, I mean, again, whoever we think are going to be the starters, I think have looked really good.
Yeah, I'll go B minus at corner. I think Mills and Mitchell have looked really good. It is a little bit of a bummer you haven't seen that third guy emerge, whether it's Malcolm Butler, Jack Jones, or whoever. But I'm like A for the top two guys, right? And then like a C plus for the rest because
Way
Malcolm
down.
Butler's been inconsistent. Safety, I'll go B plus. Again, it's been that thing where they've been good, they've been solid. There's no holes. I don't know that there's been that wow moment for them. Maybe Kyle Duggar's pick to end last week, but no knocks, no knocks. They're good at safety. That might be the best position group on the team. I think it is at least,
Yeah.
and they've lived up to that so far.
Yeah.
I
If you
wish
were,
we'd gotten to see more Jabril Peppers. That's not like a knock on his grade. He's been hurt. I'm just saying, like, I can't wait for him to get healthy because I think he'll be really exciting when he is. Like I think what I'm saying is I think they have room to grow at that
yeah.
position.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has any worry at safety. There were some issues where we were watching Duggar kind of getting lost in coverage against tight ends a little bit earlier in camp. But beyond that, again, I don't think that's a position you really necessarily have to worry about. Also, we just haven't seen enough from those guys, making plays so far in the days that we've seen. Is there enough for you to grade special teams, Alex?
Of course,
Yeah,
always.
always. Okay.
Yeah,
All three
I
phases. We go all three phases here.
all three. So I think the kickoff unit's been really good. The kick return unit, Marcus Jones is very aggressive in terms of the balls he fields, the balls he lets go. Some of that might be camp and he's trying to prove himself. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. He's just been very aggressive. He's maybe fielding some balls he shouldn't on kick and punt return. Jake Bailey looks incredible. He looks totally refreshed after playing hurt last year, so that's been excellent. And the punt return group as a whole between Marcus Jones, Trey Nixon, Jabril Peppers when he's healthy, I think there's a lot of potential there. So I'll go A minus on special teams. I think special teams has put in the work you'd expect coming in. The tough thing is where they really struggled last year was punt protection, right? They couldn't keep Jake Bailey clean. There were a number of blocks. There were some that I think he maybe had a
Way
short
too many
kick because they
blocks.
would have
Yeah.
been blocked. Well, even
Yeah.
beyond that, I think there's some that maybe would have been blocked and Bailey short kicked, and you get the ball off, but it doesn't go as far or as accurate. You don't know until a game. Even in fully padded practices, they're not going hard enough to really tell that. So that's my one unknown. But everything they've done so far, I've liked. I think has been good.
Yeah. Okay. That concludes all of our Patriots stuff for the day. But Alex, I am going to sneak in because I know you love to do it. I'm going to sneak in a Boston
Oh,
Sports Minute for you.
I like it. All right, what do
Uh,
you got?
all right. Hold on one second. First, we change the graphic. Dun, dun, dun. Did we do it? Then
Yep,
we
there you
change.
go.
Hold on. There's more to it. I
Oh,
want Alex's take on this. Jackie Bradley
Yeah,
Jr.
look, there's the argument first that should they have stuck with him or Jaren Duran? I know a lot of people are down on Jaren Duran, but he's so much younger. I'm fine with sticking with Duran over Bradley, even if Duran kind of looks like a mess right now. You have to stick with the potential at this point. As for Bradley himself, that trade, doesn't look great. The prospects haven't necessarily performed. He actually took on more salary as the Red Sox to take on a worse player. And Alex Spear had this great thread
Yes, it's
earlier
and
today.
that's
Did you
why I
see
brought it
that?
up here.
Okay.
This is borderline. This is why I brought this up. This is borderline fireable.
Yeah.
In terms of how they manage this salary by taking on, they traded Renfro's 7.5 for Bradley's 12, got the
With another
prospects in
year
return.
of control on Renfro too.
And another year of control for the 12, and then they brought in Pham for another 2, and that puts them over the luxury tax line, which means the penalty is if they lose players in free agency, as you will because you didn't trade them, and you're expecting Bogaerts, Martinez to opt out. Martinez a free agent, Bogaerts to opt out, hit free agency. Instead of getting a pick at the end of the second round, you're not going to get picks at the end of the fourth round, which is probably going to be players that are going to be more highly touted than the prospects you got in return on the Bradley deal. And this, to me, Alex, is simple freaking math. And to not be able to do this is I don't care if you run, a small, bagel shop or independently or a major league baseball franchise. This kind of math is the stuff that gets you friggin' fired. I don't understand how you blow this up. I don't understand how as a Red Sox how are they acting like a small market team but over the luxury tax line? It's unfathomable.
So this is exactly the point. And granted, I made this point before this happened, but when we were arguing about this the other day with the trade deadline, right? I said it'd be one thing if Bloom was just doing the small market Tampa thing, and I don't agree with the plan, but he's at least executing it, right? They're not even operating like the Rays are one of these small market sabermetrics teams anymore, right? This is not what the Rays do at all. You have Hunter Renfroe for $7.3 million. You keep Hunter Renfroe for
because
$7.3 million.
It's 30 homers and 100 RBI,
right,
even for nothing.
If you want to say we want to trade an overpriced outfielder, maybe get a little worse than pick up prospects, the guy you deal in that situation, again, going back to the winter, the guy you deal is JD Martinez, not Hunter Renfroe. So I'll say it again. I'm not going to give Bloom crap for trying to operate like he's still with the Tampa Bay Rays, because that's not what he's doing. He's not operating like he's running a big market team or like he's operating like he's running a small market team. He's operating like he's drunk playing MLB The Show. It doesn't make any sense. There is no plan. There is no strategy. It's all nonsense. He's flying by the seat of his pants. There's no direction whatsoever. You're right. It was a horrible trade when they made it. This puts the cap on it. I don't want to hear small team, small market anymore. And, oh, look, the Rays have been successful. He's operating like the Rays. That's not what he's doing. He's a drunk toddler at this point. I keep saying he's drunk. I shouldn't, you know what I mean? There's no rhyme or reason or logic. It's all just throwing crap against the wall. There's no plan.
Yeah, it's that thread from Spear is what threw me over the top there. But beyond that, just simply, bringing in this, trying to sneak guys in and hope we wouldn't notice, like trying to play an outfield where Jackie Bradley Jr.'s out there and batting 190, and then trying to throw. I mean, the fact that he has the third most games played on the team behind, just ahead of Bobby Dahlbeck, you are putting out guys who are borderline, hot dog vendors. I mean, borderline out of the game, if not even 4A, guys who are not major league ready players on a $200 and something million team, and you're doing it at 4 and 5 positions. And when guys got hurt, it was 6 and 7 spots on the diamond of having below major league caliber talent, below replacement level, putting JBJ out there. And I'm sorry, Jaren Duran is not young. He's older than Rafael Devers. He's 25, and he is a 4A guy, and he's never going to have a major league career, and he can't judge a fly ball, and he has no business in center field. What are you doing leaving Jackie in right and having Duran in center? Even on field management, didn't make sense with bringing Bradley in here. You put him in a position to fail. You made him an everyday player when what he needed to be was a platoon guy. And there is a defensive replacement. Of course he was going to fail because he's just not that good a hitter. And you didn't, I don't know. So the whole thing sucked from start to finish. The entire Jackie Bradley experiment, bringing him back in this was just a fail from the get-go. But especially seeing now what it's done to them and how it's messed up their books is a disaster. And people on here wondering, why aren't they talking Patriots? We wrapped up Patriots. It's a little Boston Sports Minute, and then we're going to wrap up the pod. If you missed the start of it, go back. You can rewatch it. We talked about day 8 from camp today, our observations, and handed out some grades as well if you're jumping in late.
Yeah. On Jackie, and like none of this is his fault either. He towards the end of his career, he like you said, he should have been a platoon player. They didn't put him in a great spot. He's always been good to the organization. He's been great for the organization. It's nothing against him. It's against Bloom. And you talk about, do they need a shakeup? And you mentioned the manager. One, I don't remember if I said this to you the other day or if I said to somebody else. Remember when Tom Brady was here and he would get fed up with the play calling and he would throw the protest balls, right? I think Alex Cora has been putting out protest lineups. Like, well, if this is what you're going to give me, this is what I'm going to do. And Matt McCarthy had a really interesting idea on Twitter this morning, and somebody just hinted at it in the chat there. Cora said he doesn't want to manage forever, but he's a tremendously popular guy. The players love him. One of the Red Sox biggest problems right now is the players don't trust the front office. What if you move Cora up there to stable things? I wonder, John, you tell me, is there any team in recent history that moved a coach up to the front office who was popular with the players, but maybe was having some trouble figuring out the X's and O's on a game-to-game basis, and it clicked? Has there been any cases of that recently? I can't think of one.
You only do that if you're if you're cheap and you owe that coach a ton of money. Then you do it. Other than that, no.
But it worked. You can't say it didn't work. It worked. They got to the finals in his first year.
TBD. I'm also, I'm not giving Theo all the credit for 2004 either. There was some work that was done beforehand. But enough. Still, poor Dan Duquette. But yeah, Red Sox are a mess. It really is a fairly depressing Boston sports scene these days, just because so many teams are just stuck in this no man's land of mediocrity with their ceilings capped before the season begins. You hope the Patriots aren't that. The great thing about football and the great thing about the Patriots is at any point in time, stuff can just come together in ways that you didn't necessarily see. And so that's what you're hoping for with the Patriots, that the whole is a little bit greater than the sum of the parts, and that there are, and that you have enough internal improvement where they can surprise us a little bit. So we are, as we said, through 8 days of camp with another practice tomorrow. We're going to wrap up the Patriots beat here. But make sure you tune in. We will be bringing you daily podcasts when there are camp practices so we can talk about it. We have Friday. They're off on Saturday, back Sunday at Gillette Stadium. We'll be back at the stadium there as well, checking out these next couple of days. In the meantime, Alex, Barth, who'd you have on your podcast today?
Karen Garigi and Boston Herald. Really good stuff. We talked about kind of where the offense is at, what needs to change. She talked to Trent Brown today. We got a bit into that conversation and some of the younger players on defense that might be on their way up.
Karen is great, one of the great true insiders remaining on the Patriots beat, gets a lot of people to talk to her, is a fountain of information. So check out that podcast. That should be really good. Also, make sure you follow Alex on Twitter for all of his camp updates and read all of his written material over at 98.5, the Sports Hub. And, you're going to hear him on radio a lot during Patriots camp. You got any appearances coming up?
Yep. I'm on Saturday, 2 to 5, Sunday, 2 to 1, Tuesday, 7 to midnight, and then Friday, 7 to midnight, the night after the preseason game. And I'm pretty sure I'll be on the night of the preseason game as well. I just don't know when.
Nice. Yet. His cup runneth over. There's
be busy.
All the Alex Barth you guys can handle. So check that out. And obviously head over to CLNS Media for all of our training camp coverage. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for endless camp updates. You've got Greg Bedard. You have Andrew Callahan. Obviously this Patriots Beat podcast. Tons of daily content. And we're just going to keep kind of pouring it out there throughout training camp and obviously on into the regular season. So thanks for joining. We will